In this video, we dive into the unsettling case of Kelly Dwire, who vanished without a trace in Milwaukee. 27-year-old Kelly Dwire had lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for 5 years. She was always busy and social, and in between her 3 jobs, she often went out with friends to enjoy the nightlife and atmosphere of the area's bars and restaurants. Her dad, Tony Dwire, said she seemed really settled and happy there, and even though she had a lot going on, she always tried to find time to talk to him. Before we dive into the full story, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe for more gripping real-life crime stories that reveal the dark truths behind cold cases. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update and stay on top of every shocking development. I also want to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me which country you're watching from. It's incredible to see how far these stories travel and how many people around the world are drawn to uncovering the truth. Your support helps keep these stories alive, honors the victims, and reminds us why these cases must never be forgotten. Now, let's get started.
I love you so much, and I'm so thankful for you and all of those things, and I don't want you to be sad because we're not talking. You can always pick up and call me. I'll call you right back if I don't pick up. But yeah, I love you. I hope to hear from you in the morning.
Kelly's aunt said she always saw the best in people, which is why she had so many friends. Her confidence spread. Kelly, who was 27, loved to travel and had always been very athletic, especially at tennis from a young age. But she soon gave up tennis for yoga and got a job as an educator at a Lululemon athleisure store. She also taught yoga at a local studio and worked part-time as a nanny a couple of days a week. Like many people, Kelly was big on social media and dating apps. She had been casually dating and enjoying being single, but for about a year, she had been seeing a 38-year-old man named Chris Zako every week. Kelly told her dad Tony that she was in love with Chris, a successful IT executive who used to work in IT for the Yankees but had left for unknown reasons and moved to Milwaukee in search of something new. Chris, like Kelly, was always on the go. He worked long hours, loved sports and traveling, and enjoyed the nightlife of Milwaukee just as much as Kelly did. On October 10, 2013, Chris and Kelly went out to some local bars, meeting up with friends along the way. After 2 days, on October 12, 2013, Kelly hadn't posted anything on any of her social media accounts. Usually she did this several times a day, so the lack of any kind of update was strange. When people called her, they were also met with silence. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Later that day, Karen, Kelly's boss at Lululemon, was waiting for her to show up for her shift, but she didn't. She tried calling Chris's number, but he didn't answer, so she left him a message. He called her back shortly after. He also said he hadn't heard from Kelly in a few days, which was strange, but he thought she might be mad at him about something. Maybe they had a fight on the night out or something. Kelly's friends wondered what was going on, but there was no activity on her social media, bank cards, or phone, so an investigation was started. Kelly Dwire was now missing. Kelly met Chris at his Park Lafayette Towers apartment on the 18th floor just before 8 p.m., Chris told other people. After leaving to try to get some cocaine, they came back empty-handed. They then went out for drinks at a bar called Allium, which was only a short walk from his building. Over the next few hours, they met up with different friends coming and going. The drinks were flowing, and everyone was having a great time. Kelly told one friend that she had the next day, October 11th, off, and planned to relax and work out. Chris and Kelly left around 2:30 a.m. and went back to Chris's apartment. CCTV footage showed them walking into his building, laughing and chatting in what looked like a lively conversation. Chris said they had drugs and sex before passing out in his living room. He also said Kelly left his apartment at 9 a.m., which he knew because he heard the door close and looked at the clock. He hadn't heard from her since, and Chris hadn't talked to her all day because he was busy moving sports equipment to his mother's house. Karen, Kelly's boss, told the police that in the months before she disappeared, Kelly seemed off. She had lost a lot of weight, and her normally excellent performance at work seemed to be slipping. Karen even sent her home one day because she looked glassy-eyed and out of it, which Kelly said was because she took an allergy medicine on an empty stomach. But friends and family said this wasn't enough to explain why she would just disappear, and her parents, friends, and co-workers were out every day putting up flyers. Karen kept talking to Chris to find out what was going on, and she said he was being helpful. But when she met him in person a few days later at the shop, she felt very differently. Some of Kelly's coworkers were there to hand out missing persons flyers, and Karen said she had a strong reaction to Chris. Chris put his arm around her shoulder and said, "I'm sorry for what you're going through." It was a nice thing to say, but this was the person Kelly had been seeing for a year and one of her closest friends, and she was expecting to say that to Chris. But Chris didn't seem too worried or need anyone's sympathy. Tony Dwire, Kelly's dad, said that Kelly was crazy about Chris, but he had never been sure about him himself. He had heard that they had been seeing each other for about a year, but he was always hard to get in touch with. He seemed like he was hiding parts of his life. It turned out that Chris had been seeing someone named Megan for 3.5 years and was keeping it a secret. Megan thought they were dating exclusively and were planning to get married. Joyce, Chris's mother, confirmed that he had dropped off some things at her house, but she had never heard of Kelly, and Chris had never talked about her. Chris was now on their radar because he was the last person who was known to have seen her. The building had 28 cameras, so she couldn't have gotten outside without at least one picking her up. The camera showed the two entering just before 3 a.m. that morning, and if she had left at 9 a.m., like Chris said, she would have been seen somewhere, so it was time to get the video and troll through it all.
WISN 12 News' Tama Ponton is live on Milwaukee's east side with the details just in overnight. Tama?
Well, we have just learned in the last hour that Kelly Dwire's mother plans to come to Milwaukee today and meet with the police between 10:30 and 11 o'clock, and they do plan to speak to the media. We will keep you covered on what happened. This is one of the many posters hanging up in numerous businesses here on the east side of Milwaukee as the search for Dwire continues. Now, this is the apartment building here at the intersection of Windsor and Prospect where Dwire was last seen. Now, authorities have been searching for Kelly Dwire.
This is the most awful, incredibly horrible thing anyone could ever go through. I don't know where my baby is.
It had been a little more than a week since Kelly was last seen, and the police were back at Chris's apartment looking for clues. He didn't seem too worried, though, saying that their relationship was much less serious than Kelly was making it sound. He said that they partied a few times a week and were more like friends with benefits, while Kelly called him her boyfriend. He also said that Kelly was seeing other people casually and hadn't taken down any of her dating profiles. He gave them some names of people he thought might be responsible for her disappearance. Kelly's friend said she was more interested in Chris than he was in her. It was clear she wanted more, but she knew he wasn't pushing for the same thing she was, so she kept her options open and still used dating apps from time to time. He admitted to taking drugs with Kelly that early morning, but he said nothing else illegal or bad was going on because Kelly had already left. While the detectives were talking to him, one of them got a text from an officer who had been checking the building's cameras. The message simply said, "She did not leave." Kelly had not been picked up on any camera at any exit from Chris's apartment building. She had only entered that morning. That was all they could find. This was obviously suspicious, so when they saw drugs lying around, they took him to the station in the hopes of getting more information. But the interview ended just as quickly as it had begun, with Chris leaving the scene. They got a search warrant and found a lot more than they expected. Along with the huge amounts of drugs and drug paraphernalia, they found child abuse videos on different hard drives and CDs with kids as young as 2 years old. The police said it was sickening and some of the most disturbing things they had ever seen. They also found a video on Chris's phone from 3 weeks ago of Kelly struggling to breathe and being in distress while being bound and blindfolded during a sex act. October 11th. Detectives weren't even sure if she was fully aware that she was being recorded, but they found more photos of Kelly that showed her clearly unconscious. On another hard drive, they found more violent and asphyxia-related pornography. Chris's shower curtain seemed to have been torn off its hooks and was now missing, and the bathroom smelled strongly of bleach. They searched his car and found Kelly's DNA on a black leather glove inside. They knew he had to be involved in her disappearance, but the evidence they had found gave them enough to arrest him, which gave them more time to look into Kelly's case.
And that breaking news, new child porn charges against Kelly Dwire's friend. He is not charged in her disappearance, but Chris Zako is facing 17 new counts of having child pornography on his computer.
Zako was caught and charged with having drugs like cocaine, hydrocodone, and oxycodone, as well as child abuse materials. He was also named as a person of interest in Kelly's disappearance. He pleaded not guilty after being charged. It had been a month since Kelly was last seen, and her parents were asking the media for help by giving a reward for any information that led to her safe return.
Mother has been in agony since her daughter vanished more than a month ago.
It honestly gets harder every day to be hopeful. The longer it goes, yes, it's very hard to remain hopeful. It sounds like a cliche, but there are no words to say how horrible it is. I can't believe that I've survived a month without my daughter.
Maureen Dwire stood in front of a podium in the shadows of Chris Zako's condo. Surveillance video captured her daughter Kelly walking into the building last month, but sources tell us it doesn't show her walking out.
It is frustration, but we continue to hold out hope that we will locate her, and we're not giving up. We're still considering this a missing persons investigation.
Police believe Zako may have been the last person to see her alive. Kelly's mom talked about their relationship.
I do know that she talked about him. I mean, they had been seeing each other for almost a year.
So again, a $10,000 reward is now offered in the case. No conviction necessary. This family says that money will go to whoever can provide enough information that lets them know what happened to Kelly. We're live on the East Side tonight. Michelle Fiore, today's TMJ4.
Well, let's hope this helps. Thank you, Michelle.
Megan, Chris's girlfriend of many years, heard that he had been arrested and was being looked into by police. She was aware that she had to speak up. Chris didn't act like himself when she saw him in the days after Kelly went missing, she said. Today, October 11th, Chris and Kelly got back to his apartment. Megan told him she was going to have dinner with him at 7:30, but he was already there more than an hour late. He had no other reason than having trouble with his phone and not getting her calls. He kept playing with his phone and not really talking, which made me think he was upset, nervous, and twitchy. Police looked at what he did on his phone around this time and saw that he had taken out his SIM card for a total of 17 hours, which is a very long time to choose to be offline. Megan said he stayed the night and went through the sheets after the strange dinner. She had to change them and wondered if he was sick because he had a fever. But it was clear he wasn't because Chris left for a 160-mile journey at 7 a.m. the next day. The same day, Kelly was officially reported missing. He told Megan that he was going to buy her family some cheese as a gift. She had no idea. When he went back to her that night, he was acting strangely again and rummaging through the sheets. The next day, Chris and Megan went to lunch. She said they were having a rough time and she wasn't sure they would make it. Chris was having trouble with impotence, so they had stopped being intimate in a big way. Megan wanted to move to Denver for a while because she had family there, but Chris always said no. She took a new job to be closer to him in the end. On this breakfast, though, it looked like he had changed his mind. He said he was ready for a change because he was going to move soon. Once more, Megan found it all very hard to understand. Police showed her pictures of Chris's room on the inside. She must have known it well because she had been there so many times. She was sure that the bathroom was missing the shower curtain, towels, and rug. She also said it looked like a big travel golf bag was stolen. She remembered it was always in the same spot, and it was so annoying that she had to step over it every time she went to the bathroom. But she couldn't find the bag. When they brought in a cadaver dog, everything changed again for the probe. She was really upset about the apartment. She paid special attention to Chris's bed, the bathroom next to the trash can, the hallway next to his parking spot, and the back of his car. Everything that everyone was most afraid of seemed to come true. Kelly was already dead. He had probably been squished into the golf bag and driven out of the building in his car. They didn't know where she was, though.
It's been 6 long weeks since Kelly Dwire disappeared. Finally, her dad's facing his greatest fear.
Do you not think Kelly's alive?
I don't think she's alive. I don't think she's alive.
It's getting harder every day.
They're frustrated with the investigation.
I think the Milwaukee Police Department has some wonderful people working there, and I think their hearts are in the right place. But for some particular reason, this case has not gotten the priority that it should.
Kelly's boyfriend has not been arrested in her disappearance. However, Chris Zako has been charged with keeping a drug house and 17 counts of possessing child porn. Prosecutors asked for $250,000 in bail, calling him a probable homicide suspect.
Everything points to the fact that he did do something. In my heart of hearts, I believe he did something.
Because of how people were reacting to the trash chute, they had to think that she or her things might have been in it at some point that night. Because of this, they looked through the dump for days.
News now, Milwaukee detectives will resume their search of a Menominee Falls landfill for a 5th day today.
They are still searching for any evidence in connection with the disappearance behind Kelly Dwire.
The East Side raised Chris's bail because they thought he might try to escape.
Well, right now at 10, a judge more than tripled Chris Zako's bail today.
But he still posted it, and while he was waiting for his trial, he was freed. During that short time in jail, he is said to have told another prisoner that he had killed Kelly during what he called a rough sexual encounter. Inmate Don Trell said that Chris tried to get his help to plan a possible hit on an ex-girlfriend. This is when Chris admitted to killing Kelly. This could not be used in court, which was frustrating for the prosecutors. He finally admitted to the drug charges, but he was still fighting the charges of having materials that could be used to hurt children.
Portrayed in court documents as a wild guy, using drugs and bondage during sex acts, Chris Zako was rather subdued in the courtroom. At the hearing, the defense gained something: time. They want more time for their experts to study Chris Zako's hard drive.
Because of the nature of the alleged offenses, that analysis will require the expert to be I guess, at the police department or at some facility the police department controls.
Judge Borowski agreed to give the defense a few extra days.
Kelly's case was changed to a cold case in April 2014 because she had still not been found. It broke the hearts of her family and friends. It's already hard enough to find a lost person, but hearing the words cold case makes you feel even worse. Was there ever a way to solve this? Are they ever going to find Kelly?
New at noon today, a trial date has now been set for Chris Zako.
Maureen Dwire got up at dawn to make sure she was at this court hearing for Chris Zako. During the hearing, a June trial date was set. Although the charges don't relate to Dwire, Dwyer's family is hopeful there'll be some resolution soon.
He did something to Kelly, and we want him to tell us about it.
He's guilty of sin and slow-moving process, and he's walking free while Kelly's body's decomposing.
A few months later, Chris was found guilty on 16 of the 17 counts of having child abuse materials, but the trial could not talk about Kelly's absence. After he was found guilty, prosecutor Sarah Hill said that Chris had something to do with her disappearing before he was sentenced. It played some role in how he was sentenced. It had something to do with his character, she said. 19 years in jail were given to him. Joyce, his mother, did everything she could to prove that he was innocent, saying that the hard drives they had found were not even strange. She said he stole everything from an old job and wouldn't know what was on them.
Kelly Dwire vanished from her boyfriend's luxury high-rise 1 year ago
The police were not working on the case anymore because it was a cold case. Kelly's family hired a private investigator to look in 3 large areas of Milwaukee. People who used to be with Chris all had very scary stories to tell about their relationships and sex lives with him. They talked about relationships that started out okay, but quickly turned bad. Chris choked his partners over and over, and one woman said she almost died. The last time he saw her was just a few months ago. One of his ex-girlfriends said she often had trouble getting away from him, and that he would pinch her nose to make it even harder for her to breathe. She said she kept the relationship going because when I'd get my air back, he'd highly praise me and give me lots of validation and self-worth, saying I did a good job and he really wanted me, which was what she needed. He would do things without her permission, and there was one time she was so scared for her life that she thought she might die if she fought back. She talked about a terrible sexual attack that had left her so traumatized that she didn't even want her name to be written down. They found out that Kelly often talked about having more exciting sex lives with her friends and coworkers. But what they saw on Chris's phone video and in those photos was still scary and seemed like going too far. Miss C, who was also ex-spouse of Chris, told police that she met him on Craigslist. She wanted a casual relationship where she could play the part of the dominant and the submissive, but Chris broke the rules they had made very quickly, putting her in danger. Signals and safe words to stop were not paid attention to. It was like he wanted to see me almost die, she stated. Chris pinned her down and raped her one night while her kids slept next door. She didn't see him again after that. Now, both the cops and the prosecution thought that this was the only possible explanation for what happened to Kelly and how she died. If he had thrown away her body on October 12th while he was supposedly going to Madison to buy cheese, they had 160 miles to look into it. The charge on his credit card showed that he bought shoes on the way back from Madison. Before the search even began, a resident called to say that they saw what appeared to be a human skull tangled in a bushy area of a rural road that went nowhere. Soon they found the remains of a human skeleton with only a few finger bones broken. One leg was turned in toward the body, and the other was bent behind the ribs and backbone.
Tony Dwire says he's not jumping to conclusions.
Tenure of this entire thing has been so painful, so long, and impacted so many people that to have a gut reaction on any part of it is at best premature, and we do our best not to speculate. It's been a year and a half. It's a very, very long time.
Now, Dwire is waiting for a forensic odontologist to review old dental records to determine if the female skeleton with good teeth may be his firstborn.
Certainly it'd be closure. The one goal that we've had since the beginning is to bring Kelly back, to give her a respectful burial, funeral, an opportunity for her mother and her sister? Sure.
Since there were no clothes or other items close, it took a few days to figure out who they were. On May 1st, 2015, dental records were used to confirm that the remains belonged to Kelly. While they weren't the ones who found her, the police had a good idea of where she was, just over 10 miles from where Chris got the shoes.
She was missing for a year and a half.
And now her family has to suffer through a big waiting period until forensic analysis can determine how Kelly Dwire died.
At this point, 19 months had passed since she went missing, making it impossible to find out how she died. Samples of the ground showed that her body had been there the whole time.
Today, Milwaukee County District Attorney John Chisholm and investigators from both Milwaukee and Jefferson counties met to discuss evidence and where the investigation goes from here.
There's a lot of work to be done still, and we don't have a lot of answers.
As investigators continue their work, friends and family remember Kelly.
I'm sure it's such a relief to her family to at least have some closure so they can start their healing process.
The investigation could now be changed to an open murder case. Over the next 2 years, they kept getting more proof, like phone records, statements from ex-girlfriends, and so on. They thought the following was the order of events. On October 11th, sometime between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m., after killing Kelly, he put her body in his travel golf bag and wrapped it in his bathroom curtain. He then pushed the bag to his parking spot underground and put it in the back. At that very moment, a big fan was covering the view of the security camera that pointed at his parking spot. Chris Zako left his building in his car at 10:06 a.m. After 2 minutes, Kelly's phone, which has never been found, lost its link to a cell phone tower in the area of Chris's apartment. Her phone would not have been pinging off of that station if she had left an hour earlier at 9 a.m. Chris took his car back to his room at 10:22 a.m. It looked like he had thrown away her phone during these 10 minutes, or so. A few hours later, at 6:15 p.m., Chris left his building again in his car with the sports gear he wanted to take to his mom's house. Between 4 and 7 p.m., he took the SIM card out of his phone. It would stay out of the phone for the next 17 hours. After more than an hour at 8:45 p.m., Chris went to Megan's house for the night and had dinner with her and some friends. His car stayed parked across the street with Kelly's body still inside. At 7 a.m., Chris swore he was going to Madison, 160 miles away, to buy cheese for Megan's parents on October 12th. He threw away her body on the way back by pushing her down into the woods with a black glove. Kelly's clothes, the golf bag, the shower curtain, the bathroom rug, and the towels have never been found. By noon, Kelly was no longer in his car. He put his SIM card back in his phone and drove another 13 miles to a store to buy shoes. Then people like Kelly's boss, Karen Horton, started sending him texts and calling him. He even texted Kelly's phone a few times to see if she was okay. After that, he drove back to Megan's house and spent the night. The next morning, he asked her at brunch if she wanted to move out with him. On May 8, 2017, almost 2 years after she was found,
Breaking news now at noon. Nearly 4 years after Kelly Dwire went missing, her body was discovered in 2015. Charges now filed in her murder.
Chris Zako was charged with reckless murder in the first degree, strangulation, and hiding a body.
As I've briefly read through the criminal complaint, the Milwaukee County DA's office has spent time gathering at least 5 other women that Zako had previous relationships with and laying out a pattern of sexual deviance. Now, I'm continuing to dig deeper into this criminal complaint here. It is long, 16 pages.
A bit of a jigsaw puzzle, and there were a lot of pieces that were always available to us. It was just ultimately learning how each piece fit with the others. And I think there's an overwhelming amount of information in the complaint that indicates essentially that we eliminated about every other conceivable suspect, and that this individual clearly had the opportunity and, by all accounts, committed this act.
In terms of what actual evidence will get in front of a jury, I would say that that's going to be a pretty good fight, and I would think a number of things listed. I could be wrong, but I would think a number of these things listed are not going to find their way in front of that jury panel, which arguably makes already circumstantial case more suspect.
He said he wasn't guilty of everything, and a date for his hearing was set. One detective agreed that it would be hard to show the case, but that it was strong. It's a very unusual case. Everything is connected. You have to read between the lines in this case. His dad, Chris, and his mom, Joyce, were still to support him. Investigators from the police thought that he would have quickly cleaned out his apartment of any illegal items or materials that could be used against him before the trial began. They got him in more trouble when they found violent and explicit pornography in his cell and took it away.
The mood in the courtroom was somber. Details shared by people who take the stand are painful to hear for Kelly Dwire's family. Today, friends of Dwire took the stand, as well as more MPD investigators.
Karen Horton was Kelly Dwire's boss at Lululemon, who eventually found Chris Zako's number and called him after Dwire didn't show up for work. Karen says Zako came to Lululemon shortly before a group was meeting to post flyers with Kelly's photo. Zako didn't stay to help.
And said, "I'm so sorry for what you're going through." And at that point, I just, again, got a very strong body sensation and thought, I don't trust him. At least twice he had asked if police looked at the videos, the surveillance tapes from the apartment.
MPD Detective Eric Gulbranson shared some of the surveillance video from Zako's apartment building garage.
Opens the trunk, and then he will grab the bag that he is pushing this in. Objection.
Attorneys for Zako argue that the cameras don't show everything. Speculation is not enough, and evidence does not directly link Zako to Dwire's death.
Chris didn't go to court, but his defense team knew how to answer every question. They were just as sure of themselves as the prosecutors. Chris's phone had the SIM card taken out and turned off for 17 hours, but the defense team said that was just a chance. Chris used his credit card to buy a pair of shoes during these 17 hours. Chris's lawyers said that if he was technically savvy enough that they couldn't track him down with his phone, then why would he leave a credit card trail? They knew that Kelly had never been seen leaving his building. There was a camera at each exit, and the only other way out was through a parking lot that also had a camera. There was no video at all of her leaving. The now missing golf bag had to have been used to take her body out. Chris's lawyers said that he was never seen leaving with the golf bag either. They only saw him drive in and out of the building. When he would have loaded the bag, the truck was blocking his parking spot, and there were no cameras by the lift he would have used to get to the bottom floor. But the cameras showed him going for sure at 10:06 a.m., probably to get rid of Kelly's phone. He came back in less than 15 minutes and briefly opened his trunk. Inside, he saw something white or grayish in color. Lawyers for the prosecution said this fit with that travel bag. The cadaver dog had also responded in that exact spot in the parking lot and in his car, which could not be ignored. He put the travel bag in his car, but they didn't have a video of the exact moment. However, they said there was enough evidence to show that Megan had seen the bag. Kelly was pushed inside it, and she had been in the back of his car. Megan, the police, and other people Kelly had been with all testified. After 9 days, both sides took a break from their cases. They came to a decision after only 2 hours of discussion.
Count 3, we the jury find defendant Chris Zako guilty of strangulation and suffocation.
Today on Live at 4, jury found Chris Zako guilty in the death of Kelly Dwire.
It's been almost 5 years since Kelly was last seen. Chris Zako was found guilty of everything. The defense said that everything they did together was voluntary and that Kelly went back to his room on his own free will that morning. They thought he should get 22 years, but the judge didn't agree. He said that Chris's behavior throughout the whole situation told him all he needed to know about his character, along with the charges he was already spending time for. For him, 22 years in prison would be too dangerous for the community. In fact, he wanted to give him a longer term than even the district attorney had asked for.
He deserves to live a long, long life in jail, hopefully tortured by the choices he's made.
Along with her father and sister, Kelly Dwire's mother asked the judge for the maximum sentence.
When your daughter goes missing for 1.5 years with no clue as to where she is, that is torture beyond belief.
The most aggravating factor is not only taking the life of that child, but also of trying to hide it. In a demonic way.
He also said, two things could be true at the same time, even if it had been agreed upon at first. Things that were once agreed upon turned into complete disregard for human life. You ended up killing your target by choking them to death for your own pleasure. He said that the way Kelly or Chris had been treated was not okay, even if their other ex-boyfriends liked the same things. Safety and getting along with others should always be the most important things. His ex-girlfriends and ex-boyfriends could all say that Chris didn't care about any of those things. They also had to think about how long Kelly would have died. If he felt risky at any point, he could have stopped or at least asked for help. That wasn't him. He kept doing it until she died, then lied about it and went on with his life as if nothing had happened. The prosecution said this, along with the ex-girlfriend's statements and child abuse materials found all over his apartment, proved he was a very dangerous person who only cared about himself sexually.
After years of going unsolved, the man found responsible for the death of Kelly Dwire will spend 31 years in prison.
Chris Zako, who is 43 years old, was given a sentence of 31 years in jail, followed by 19 years of extended supervision in 2018. This was on top of the 19 years he was already in jail for having drugs and child abuse materials, so he will probably die there. He tried to overturn his conviction for having drugs and materials related to child abuse, but in 2019 this was turned down and his verdict stood. He also tried to overturn all of Kelly's sentences, saying that the court case had been flawed and that Kelly deserved a new trial. However, this was also turned down in 2023. For Kelly's family and friends, it had been a long and hard process. They had been worried for years that this might never be fixed. Even though Chris was found guilty, it didn't make anyone feel better, but at least they could bury Kelly properly and say goodbye. Maureen, Kelly's mom, said that she has slowly become more alone, getting sick, and not being able to work because she doesn't want to be around other people. She is also pulled away from her friends, who she says don't know how to help her through this terrible situation. When she said it, there's no feeling better, no moving on, there's just a new normal. It hurt so badly. Thank you for watching and joining me as we explored this case from start to finish. Stories like these show just how unpredictable life can be and how crucial it is to stay aware and informed. If this video captured your attention, left you thinking, or made you question what you know, be sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another investigation. Your support keeps this channel alive and allows us to continue uncovering the stories that often go untold. I want to hear from you, so comment below and share your thoughts, opinions, or the next case you want to see covered. Every comment is read and helps guide what we explore next. And if you know someone who would benefit from watching this video, don't hesitate to share it with them. Spreading awareness is powerful, and together we can ensure these stories reach more people. Always stay vigilant, trust your instincts, and look out for yourself and those around you. Life can change in a single moment, and knowledge is one of our strongest defenses. Thank you again for watching, supporting the channel, and being part of this community. Stay safe, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next video where we dive into another story full of truth, intrigue, and lessons that matter.